are now ready for our first guest of the night, triple negative breast cancer survivor, and we're going to bring her on a little bit early so we can get a little bit more out of her. So, Jeanie, how are you doing, girl?
Great. How are you, April?
I'm fantastic, man. It's so great to have you here tonight, man.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
Of course. And you're up there in Pennsylvania. Is it cold, or how are y'all doing?
It's freezing.
Is it really? What's the temperature there?
It's probably in the 40s.
Oh my gosh, that's not fun, man. We're like I think we're like 65 today here in Dallas.
Oh, I'm jealous.
Yeah, we're living it up here, man. We are like sweating. I'm wearing a tank top right now, as you can see, and just chilling out and enjoying this weather. It's been really beautiful. Well, I want to first thank you, girl, for joining us tonight. Again, found you on the triple negative breast cancer survivors group page. So many fabulous people over there. 7.4 people, 7.4 thousand. So it's 7,400 people on that group. This is a lot of triple negative breast cancer survivors. So it's really great to meet you through that. So we talked a little bit yesterday, and what we want to do is we want to hear exactly how everything went down for you, like from the starting. And I was so excited to hear that you're just going to be an open book for this. It's going to be an amazing help, Jeanie. So thank you so much. So, Jeanie, take us back, if you will, to when you first found out you had breast cancer. How was it found?
Well, to go from the very beginning, I found out after 12 years I was pregnant with twins, and that was the most exciting thing. And then
I have to ask you, were you trying to get pregnant, or was it a surprise?
Oh, it was. We were trying.
Oh, good. Okay.
We were trying, and luckily we got twins.
Amazing.
Surprise, surprise.
So
and
amazing.
One night during dinner, I was eating, and I had on a V-neck shirt, and I dropped a piece of food down my shirt. And when I went to retrieve it, I found quite a big lump.
Wow.
In my right breast.
How old were you at this time?
I was 35.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
then what happened? I guess you got home and you checked that out?
Well, I immediately called the doctor. They got me in the next day. And surprisingly, the doctor was not concerned. She actually said, this is her exact quote, it was a chance in a million. It was anything. There was a chance in a million it could be cancer. But I said, baloney. I want a script, and I want it now, and I'm going to get an ultrasound tomorrow. So I did.
Wow. And so you were moving really fast with that. I know whenever I was diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer, I was already going in for regular screenings, and they found something like in July of 2010, and then they were like, let's keep an eye on it and have you come back in 3 months. And so it didn't move nearly that quickly. So that's really great that they were able to, you found the lump, doctor next day you're getting screened, and
screened.
And then
biopsy.
What happened? Gotcha.
Got the biopsy. Well, they did the ultrasound, did the biopsy. I could tell something was immediately wrong, and then had to wait 5 days to get the results. And came home from work, and my husband opened the door and said, Jeanie, it's ductal carcinoma. Let's take it from here. Yeah.
Wow. And did you say you were at home and they called you?
They actually wouldn't talk to me. They would only talk to my husband.
That's odd. Huh.
Yes.
And so
I think I don't know if it was because I was pregnant and they were nervous for me, but they talked to him and he had to break the news to me.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you weren't alone, at least, especially being pregnant, to find out you have breast cancer and 16 weeks in. What kind of thoughts were going through your mind at that time?
My absolute first thought was, I have to save these babies. They're miracles, and I had to save them. So I would do anything in my power to do it.
Absolutely. Wow. And so at that time, you were well aware that you were having twins, and now you're diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer, which at that time, were
Right.
you even familiar with triple negative breast cancer?
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
All I
That's,
knew is it was ductal carcinoma and it was invasive.
yeah. Yeah. And so to learn that it was triple negative, and then to learn the details of that, that probably sent your head spinning even further, huh?
Oh, beyond,
Yeah.
beyond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happened next? They did the biopsy, so now we're at this point. Now you're just struggling to take in that news, that you've got triple negative breast cancer, rare and aggressive
Right.
form of breast cancer,
Right.
16 weeks pregnant with twins.
Yes.
So what next?
From well, I was diagnosed actually. It's funny that this interview is today because my diagnosis is March 4th, 2008.
Wow.
On March, I went to UPenn Hospital of University of Pennsylvania,
Uh-huh.
and my doctor, my oncologist, and my oncological surgeon got me in for my first lumpectomy on March 17th. So just 13 days later, I was getting the lumpectomy.
Wow.
And then they had to decide what the plan was after that.
Wow. That's a lot going on in a short amount of time, man.
Yeah.
Holy
Say that
cow.
again.
So at the time when you're diagnosed, did they give you different options? Like were they like, here's your options for surgery, here's your options for treatment, or were they just like, here's your special options because you're pregnant with twins? I mean, did you have special options because of that?
Dr. Domchek, who was my doctor at UPenn, said, "This is what we're going to do. If you do this, you will be dancing at your twins' weddings." I said, "I'm all in."
Wow.
So
And so
go ahead.
so they gave you kind of your treatment plan out of the gates. They were like, this is what you need to do, because you're pregnant, and this is how we can ensure that you'll have a long life, and be able to be there for your kids later down the line. And so they said they strongly suggested a lumpectomy. And then what kind of treatments did they recommend at that point?
First, a lumpectomy. The margins weren't clear, so I had to have a second lumpectomy. And then I had 4 of the AC treatments of chemo with still pregnant with the girls. That was the safest way to go. I couldn't take Taxol, which I took after they were born. So I had actually, it was funny because the 4th AC treatment was scheduled and my water broke.
Oh my
Because
gosh.
I had the girls at 27 weeks.
Oh my gosh. How
Yeah.
How terrifying. So were you bald when you
Yeah.
had your babies?
Oh, I was bald and I had my little cap on.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Wow. That's so crazy. Do you have photos? I would love to see photos sometime of that. Like,
Oh, I would definitely give them to you. Yep,
yeah, where you're
definitely.
pregnant with your twins and you're bald at the same time. It's just like such a mix of emotions happening, I would imagine.
Oh, it was pure happiness and pure fear,
Yeah, I'll
both at the same
bet.
time.
So did they tell you that there was any risk to your babies by having the chemo, like anything at all? Was there anything you were supposed to watch for or anything like that, like
You
throughout your treatment?
they weren't. She said, my Dr. Donchek said that the placenta would protect the babies. And actually, which is interesting, the steroids they gave me, you know how we all have to take our steroids, developed my girls' lungs. So when they were born at 27 weeks in the NICU, they had no oxygen needed. They were the only babies that did not need oxygen in the entire NICU.
Wow, I've never heard of that. That's so crazy. Wow. And so you essentially had your kids in the midst of your chemo treatment.
My doctor called me as I was in my hospital bed and said, "Jeanie, you missed your chemo today." She was actually angry at me. "Where were you?" And I said, "Dr. Donchek, you know I had the babies today, that this is a Wednesday." And I said, and she said, "I didn't know you had the babies." okay. She goes, I'll see you Monday. I go, for what? She goes, your next chemo.
They are
said,
not,
okay.
they're not playing around. They're like, hey, that's really nice. You had twins and all that stuff. But yeah, well, you're late and we're mad at you. You missed this day. You're coming in on Monday. So we'll see you Monday. They're like, we're not slowing down. Well, that's good in a way because, you know, you want them to be very serious about your treatment and on top of it and everything like that. But that's so funny. Wow.
Yeah, I was shocked. I was so shocked.
Yeah. So when you were going through the AC, that's adriamycin cytoxin, which is very common. Those two plus Taxol are usually the common treatments for a lot of the breast cancer. And as you mentioned, you couldn't do the Taxol until after the babies were born. But with the AC, the adriamycin cytoxin, how many rounds of that did you have? And tell me about some of the side effects you experienced.
You're going to find this funny. I had 3 rounds pregnant. My morning sickness went away. I felt great. Everything that they said was going to happen didn't. I felt wonderful.
Wow.
I think the babies were protecting me. I really do.
Isn't that crazy?
Then,
I've never heard anything like that. It's so crazy.
Because I had really bad morning sickness till I started the chemo.
It's like somehow everything zeroed each other out for the bad stuff.
Right. Exactly.
You know, it's so crazy. Wow. So you did lose your hair, though.
At day 11, right?
Yeah.
Just like they promised.
Right on schedule. Did you experience any side effects at all? Like any heartburn, any strange taste, any?
I did have heartburn. That was the only thing I had.
Uh-huh. And then did you have the Neulasta shot? For those watching, the Neulasta shot helps keep your white blood cell count up so that you're less likely to get sick. The white blood cells kind of protect you, and whenever you're on chemo, it kills a lot of your white blood cells. So you have to do this Neulasta shot after those treatments. So did you did have that?
I did have 1.
Gotcha. So you only had to have 1 the whole time?
The whole time.
Wow, that's lucky. I got one after every one, so I had 4 total.
Oh my gosh. My gosh.
So between the AC and the Neulasta, the issues you had were essentially your hair falling out, some heartburn. Did you have any trouble like with your fingernails or anything like that?
I had nothing. No.
Wow. And when you lost your hair, did you decide to go without, like with a wig or without, or just a beanie, or how did you handle the hair loss? Was that hard for you?
It was hard, but I'm an 8th grade Spanish teacher, and I had, I think, 5 or 6 different wigs, so I would do a different one every day to surprise the kids, because they were kind of going through it with me, because I taught the whole time that I was getting chemo and pregnant.
Wow.
So I was blonde one day, you know, I had streaks of pink one day, you know, brown one day.
I bet they actually liked that, didn't they? They were probably like, wow, this is fun. Our teacher's getting a little crazy and having fun with this. So when
They're like, is this a sub?
Right.
I'm like, no, it's me.
It's me, just different hair. So when you went out like to the grocery store and different things like that, were you wearing a wig as well?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, good. So after you got done, you had the kids. Then the next thing that happened is you started your Taxol.
I did. Yeah. And so I had 8 rounds of Taxol.
Gotcha. And so did you experience side effects from that now that the kids weren't there to protect you?
Yeah, I know. I wish they were, but actually with the Taxol, it was more the neuropathy in my toes was the big thing. And some joint pain, but that was, you know, it wasn't terrible, but I definitely know it was there every day.
Yeah. And did you notice that you lost even more hair when you had the Taxol?
No, it started growing on the Taxol.
Wow. You're lucky, because with me, when I went through triple negative breast cancer, I just lost my hair on my head when I had the AC. When I had the Taxol, I lost any hair anywhere. My whole body, any kind of like just like the little hair on your arms or little peach fuzz on your face or the hair inside my nose, all hair with Taxol is gone.
Wow.
Every little tiny bit. But I always tell everybody, I'm like, if I could bottle up and sell just the part that makes your skin really soft, I would totally do that because my skin was so soft from that Taxol, and I guess not having any hair at all. It's like my skin was so soft. It's crazy.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, how did this affect your like handling of the twins once they were born? Like, how were you able to
Mhm.
do that whenever you're still going through treatment? What was the day to day
I was
like?
still going through treatment, and day to day was tough. I had a lot of help from family. My husband's family is around here, lives around here. So they would help. We had some would come at night to help during the day. I still worked, as I was saying. Um, so really, it was the support that I got from my husband's family, and of course, my husband. Can't leave him out. But him and his family really helped me.
So they made it to where you weren't having to kind of deal with them as far as like crying in the middle of the night and carrying them around and whatnot. They really helped give you a break on all of
Oh,
that.
absolutely. I mean, there were nights I was up. Don't get me wrong. Especially with two, one would start, the other would start. But yeah, they were lifesavers.
That's so cool. I mean, that's one of the things that I say a lot is how important family and friends are when you're going
Oh,
through treatment. Even just having folks around can kind of help give you, a distraction, if anything, from everything so that you're not just kind of wrapped up in it with fear or anything like that. Do you remember having bouts of fear or panic, like when you
oh.
first were diagnosed and then maybe later when they were running tests and things?
I would say fear and anger. Actually,
Yeah.
when I first found out, when he had to tell me that one day, I was just angry. Why did it happen to me? What did I do wrong? Or, what could I have done to prevent this? And I had no answers. I had no
Yeah.
answers.
Yeah, and I mean, oftentimes there's not a smoking gun, so to speak. Sometimes women will find that they have one of the genes that they've linked back to breast cancer. Often they won't, and sometimes they might find that it is hereditary in some sense, that maybe you have breast cancer in your family, but sometimes they don't, and a lot of times they just can't be
Right.
sure how it happened. It's just some kind of mutation that formed and caused that triple negative breast cancer to get you. Do you recall? Do you have any family history of cancer?
No, nothing.
Yeah, and did you
And
do?
I
Yeah.
did the genetic testing.
Yeah.
Came no problems at all. No, nothing to do with the genes.
Yeah. See, and it's just like that. And I remember when I was diagnosed that I was like, what did I do wrong? I was thinking the same thing. And,
Really?
like anything that, maybe you do on a regular basis, eating wise or some soap or deodorant or whatever. And she's like, it's likely nothing that you did. It's just some mutation. So it's crazy. And it's, you sort of, as a breast cancer survivor, when you're first told that you have it, you just want like answers. You want
Yes,
something to explain how this happened to you, and when you can't find those answers, it's a little frustrating. So, yeah.
absolutely.
All right.
It's the why me, why me,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's crazy. So, you get pregnant, you get diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer 16 weeks in, do 3 rounds of AC, have your babies, finish out your AC, start and finish out your Taxol. I skipped the
Yep.
lumpectomy that was before all that. Having surgery when you're pregnant, that must have been terrifying too, and what steps they had
They
to take for that.
they were amazing though. They were amazing. I woke up from the lumpectomies and had the, what is it called, the sonogram
Uh,
machine right next to me. And as I was waking up, they were checking to make sure the babies were fine.
and that sounds
They
like.
did. They were incredible.
Yeah, it makes me think of that game Operation where like you have these tweezers and you're trying to go between the two little metal parts and not get zapped. It's like I feel like that's the type of precision they have to use in this case where it's like you just have to be so careful and make sure you do everything just right. You have to do that anyway with a lumpectomy or any kind of surgery, but then add on top of it
Yes.
that you're pregnant and you have to even be even more careful. So after you finish all your treatment and everything, how often were you left to go to your oncologist, and what happened in the follow up appointments?
Well, I had a double mastectomy. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier.
No,
Was
you didn't.
immediate.
Like, at which point did you have that? Because you said you had a lumpectomy, but the margins weren't clear, so you
Right,
had
so
a
I had
second
two of
lump.
them.
Yep.
Right.
What point in the timeline did you have the double mastectomy?
I got diagnosed March 4th, 2008.
Uh huh.
Had the double mastectomy July 10th, 2009.
Okay.
So it was
So
over a year.
so it was after you finished all treatments. So
Yes.
you did basically your first lumpectomy, your second lumpectomy. Um, you started your
Oh,
chemo. Is that right?
yes. And then I had 35 rounds of radiation.
Yowza! Dang girl,
Yeah.
you like covered it the whole gamut, man.
I did
I,
it
I don't think I
all.
don't think I've talked to anybody who's done like literally. I'm like, what else could you have like? Did you not do? The only thing I can think that you didn't do is maybe some clinical trial, or tamoxifen or something like that some people have. But
Nope.
so you had not one but two lumpectomies. Then you had all this chemo. Then was the radiation following the chemo?
The radiation fell after the chemo
Okay, and then after
right
that,
away.
was the double mastectomy. All right.
Yes.
All right, so we've got a lot of stuff to cover here. Radiation. Tell me about radiation. What was that like? And I'm just still like over here with my head spinning around. I want to be sure and tell the people watching right now that oftentimes, at least when I was told about this 10 years ago, when you're diagnosed and you choose a double mastectomy like out of the gates, then they kind of pair the double mastectomy with chemo. But if you don't have a double mastectomy, I've seen it where they have lumpectomy, chemo, radiation, or some variation of that.
Hmm.
So I want to talk through what happened with radiation and how that went for you, and then I want to get into the double mastectomy. But tell me how that radiation worked out. What was that like?
The radiation actually, compared to the chemo, was a breeze. As you can see, I'm very pale. I'm Irish. I used a cream every night religiously for I went 7 weeks, 5 days a week, couldn't miss a day. It actually was not. I felt a little fatigued, but wasn't enough that I couldn't get up and do it every day and keep going.
Wow. So, that's nice. I hear a lot of people have problems with it, like burning their skin. Did you have this problem?
I turned a little pink,
Uh huh.
but nothing, hardly noticeable.
Yeah, yeah. And some people aren't familiar with what that process is like. Can you tell us, like, when you're there for your radiation, tell us
Hmm.
the steps that you go through to have the radiation.
Well, first you get tattooed, so you find out, where the beam should go. So you get these little blue dots on you. That was my first tattoo. Um, then you just that was pretty quick actually. That was like on a Friday. I think I went the next Monday and got my first dose. So basically, you just lay on a table, and I had the best radiologists. They would just talk to me, and they would play music for you, and you sat there. I can't even remember the amount of time you sat there and just had the beam. Um, but it was a pretty easy process, and just to make sure that you always use your cream.
Yeah, right, right. And what was the type of cream? Is it something like over the counter, or is it
I
something that was
used
prescribed?
It wasn't prescribed. It was called Lindy, Lindi, and I got it in the hospital boutique that was there because they had a boutique just for breast cancer patients.
Gotcha, gotcha. So you're making chemo and radiation look like a walk in the park, I'll have you know.
Oh,
compared to like some, as far as like not really having too much sickness associated with chemo, not having the severe burns that I have seen for people who've gone
Yeah.
through radiation. So you like blew through those two things with flying colors. Um, how did the double mastectomy into play? Were you planning this from the beginning, but you just couldn't
No.
have that? Okay, tell me
I,
about it.
it was funny. I didn't even realize this because I was in my own little zone at the beginning, and I said no mastectomy. My husband, that's what my husband tells me. And then I said, you know what? I am not going to leave my children motherless. I am going to do, and they said, you can do a single mastectomy. So I went in for a mammogram on the good breast, and they found calcifications. I said, do a double. We're taking them both.
What was
So
the
I did it.
concern with the calcification? How does that play into your decision? I'm not familiar on how that plays in. Is it a risk for
It's a
breast
risk.
cancer?
It's a risk. They brought me in afterwards. She said, you
Uh-huh.
know, it could be if you could live years with the calcifications, or it could turn into cancer. And I'm not willing to take that risk. I wasn't
Yeah,
able,
yeah, yeah. No doubt, no doubt. So at that point, you're like, "All right, I'm done.
I'm done.
All fun and games up
Get it
until
up.
now.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I'm ready for the double mastectomy." So now your twins are about how old at this point when you decide to have the double mastectomy?
They were just turning two. Two? No, they were turning one.
Okay, cool. So it was sometime during the following year after you were diagnosed that you decided to do that, I
Yep,
guess. Okay,
2009. I had July 10th, 2009.
gotcha. So now you have the double mastectomy. Now, how did that go? Did you have to have the drains
Oh,
and everything, or
I
what
had the
was?
drains.
Uh,
Well, I had the free free flap tram, I think it's called, where they took the tummy tissue, the extra tummy tissue I had, and moved it up so that
that
I
is
had
so
immediate
handy.
reconstruction.
So you had immediate reconstruction, and that's also rare. Like most women that I know, they have the surgery, they have the expanders put in. For those who don't know, it's exactly how it sounds. It just kind of keeps your skin elastic so that they can put the implants in later. But most people I know have the expanders put in, then come back later for the actual reconstruction. And so for you, you got to skip the expander process and just have everything kind of moved up. And was
Yes.
that super painful? I mean, I had a double mastectomy, but I
Uh,
haven't, I didn't have any reconstruction. So
it was like I think it was an 8-hour surgery, 8 or 9. It was rough. It was rough. I spent, I believe, 2 days in the hospital. They got me right up. They made me walk, and really, it. I'm not gonna say it wasn't hard. I'm not gonna say it wasn't hard. I'd say it was the hardest part of it. It really was.
yeah, I
But
could
but now it
imagine.
gave me such peace of mind,
Right.
so I can look forward to every day and not think of cancer every single day.
Yeah, because you're like, I had a double mastectomy, I had all the chemo, I had all the radiation. You went all the way and did everything you
Yeah.
could possibly do, really, to prevent
Yes.
recurrence. Yeah.
I'm gonna be dancing at my twins' weddings.
Yeah, see? You're already on your way. I mean, gosh, this was what, almost 11 years ago or something,
Yep,
that
my
you were
twins will
diagnosed,
be.
and
Yep, it was 12 years ago, so my twins will be 13 in June.
so crazy.
So, yeah.
That's so
Actually,
crazy.
sorry, 13. I've been 13 years cancer free.
Wow. That's awesome. So, after you finished all your treatment, all your surgeries, reconstruction, all that stuff, you probably kept going to your oncologist with a certain amount of frequency. How often were you
Absolutely.
going?
It was every 4 months to 6 months to a year. She released me at year 10, but I still
Nice.
go. I
Yeah.
actually still go,
Uh-huh.
even though I'm year 13, and get checked out every year
Gotcha. And so
religiously.
what kind of things do they check when you're there, or scans do they do?
I had one PET scan. Um, They don't take my blood anymore. They used to take my blood all the time. They do a physical examination. It's much easier now past the 10-year mark. You know, when she's actually released me and said I don't have to come, then I'm like, no, Dr. Donchik, I'm still coming because I want this peace of mind.
I know what you're talking about. I was telling a friend the other day, I was like, you know, I got released from Dr. O'Shaughnessy, who'll be on around 8 p.m. Central Time. But I got released from her when I hit my 8-year mark, which was a couple of years ago now. And I left, and I remember crying because I was both excited to feel, you know, like she's basically telling me, "Hey, you're good to go," but then also a little scared because you kind of feel like you're just left out there with no one checking on you, and it's just you, and you got to keep up with it now. But I went ahead and stopped going, and I just go to my primary care, my gynecologist now annually and stuff like that. But I can totally feel you, man. I know a lot of women who do that. So you still go, and do they do chest X-rays, or they just do like a physical exam at this point?
Just a physical exam.
Yeah.
Just a physical exam. Yeah.
And you know, when we started this conversation, you said you were diagnosed at 35, right?
Yep.
And so at that point, you hadn't done any scans, or you probably weren't going in for, and you don't know if you had fibrocystic breasts or anything like that, or like just because, I mean, 35, that's young, and there would be no real reason for you to be getting screened regularly at that point unless there was some pre-existing something that they knew about. So
right, and I was going to the gynecologist every year, and that's part of the examination.
Right.
So it had to have happened very fast.
Yeah, and that's so crazy. You know? For those of you just joining, I'm talking to Jeanie here, and she found out that she had triple negative breast cancer, a rare and aggressive form of breast cancer, when she was 35, and when she was 16 weeks pregnant with twins. Guys, crazy town, man, right there. So yeah, if you hadn't have dropped that, what happened was she dropped that piece of food down her shirt at a restaurant when she was 35, and when she went to go retrieve it, she noticed a large lump. I mean, imagine, guys, so crazy. It is so important to do those self-exams, and I want to let everybody know that you can go to our Breast Cancer Can Stick It website, breastcancercanstickit.org, and there's a Get Help Now, and we have a downloadable shower card for you there if you want to know exactly how to go about doing self-exams at home. It's super important. I think you would agree, right?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, you gotta watch out for your own health, because as I always say, no one cares about your health more than you do. And Jeanie, we actually have a question for you from Kara that just came in. She says, "What advice do you have for someone who may be newly diagnosed?"
Who may be newly diagnosed?
Yeah.
I would say trust your doctors. Have a great team. Trust them. They have your best interest in heart.
Yep, that's solid advice too, and it is so important, because if you are with a team of doctors that you don't feel you can trust, you gotta get with a team that you feel you can trust.
Yeah,
it's so
absolutely.
Important. Yeah, very important.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that question, Kara. Appreciate that. So she's in the house tonight. A lot of people in the house. Philip is here. Patricia, Jennifer's here. Got a lot of people watching you right now, girl. Here to cheer you on and say that you are a rock star triple negative breast cancer survivor. I'm so glad to hear that your twins are doing great and that you were able to go through triple negative breast cancer, chemo, lumpectomy, radiation, all that stuff, double mastectomy. It's like, I'm going to have to, like, I don't know, if we ever talk again, I'm going to have like a big old sheet of paper with all the things you've had done. And you're going to be our go-to girl on the triple negative breast cancer survivor team page, so that if anybody has questions about virtually anything, you got the answers.
And I want to write a book about it. So
that would be so cool.
That's my goal.
Yeah,
that's my goal.
And you could be like, okay, the best thing to do if you want to make sure that you like have a good like time going through chemo is make sure you're pregnant.
That's great.
Because you never got sick or anything or felt bad, and she thinks Jeanie thinks it's because she was pregnant. Who knows, though?
Right. No knowledge at all.
That's so funny. Girl, man, thank you so much for taking time. I'm glad we got a little extra time with you today to be able to chat some about your crazy, awesome, and amazing experience going through triple negative breast cancer. And I know I will see you on the triple negative breast cancer survivor group page, as well as our Survivors Rock, a breast cancer can stick it community survivor
Yeah.
page too. So I know I'll see you out there again, Jeanie. You take care. Thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you,
us from
April.
Pennsylvania, girl. It's good to see you. Take care, okay?
Thank you.
Amazing, girl. Thank you. All right, guys, everybody give it up for Jeanie. So cool to have her.